اوكي. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Welcome everyone to our live stream from Homathon, the biggest virtual hackathon happening in the region. This is the fourth day of our live feed happening alongside the competition. 10,000 plus Arab programmers are joining us today from 51 countries to find solutions for 8 different sectors that were affected by the COVID-19. We're very excited and proud of what they will bring to the table, and we're more excited about seeing this whole movement happening, not just in the region, but in other parts of the world as well. Today, we will be hosting 2 sessions online. The first session will be about how important it is to be a part of a global entrepreneurship, a platform or a community. I would like to welcome our guests who will be taking this friendly chat for the next hour. Ms. Madeline Oliveri from Startup Grind will be interviewing Ms. Latifa Al-Walan from Endeavor Saudi. We will have a wonderful time watching this, and the mic is yours, ladies.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Latifa, thank you so much for being here today. Really exciting. You have a very diverse background. You started in programming, just like many of the attendees are here today. You're a coffee connoisseur, an entrepreneur, and now the managing director of Endeavor Saudi. You've gone through it all, and I would love to hear a little bit more just kind of about, where it all began. How did you know you wanted to get into programming and become an entrepreneur? Was that something that was just like naturally fostered from a young age?
Well, thank you, Madeline. I believe the first time I decided I want to be in trade, not necessarily programming, like in buying and selling, when I was I maybe 5 or 6 years old, and I used to imagine myself in the market selling t-shirts. Fast forward, while we were in high school, it was the beginning of the internet boom. And I remember reading in newspapers and about companies and people getting rich building these online platforms. And I decided back then I want to do that. And I actually tried to start a company, 17, 16 years old, very web 1.0 version of what we see today. And I couldn't, the company failed, but that was an inflection point for me, deciding I wanted to go into computer science. And that's what I did. For 5 years, I got into this sphere. And while I was still a student, I used to build solutions and e-commerce websites for others on a freelancing basis. So I guess programming has been the foundation of my entrepreneurship journey.
Love it. So you were a hustler at a young age, and now you've built companies, you've worked with companies, and now you're really involved with helping high impact, scalable startups and founders. How has a community and being a part of a community played a role in your entrepreneurial journey?
Well, especially for, it's in general, anybody who wants to start a business or be in the business world needs to build relationships. And we are naturally we're driven to build relationships. Like it's either your friend in school or your friend, a family friend, and building, and this other sphere of relationship, which is, it's not very, it's not a close type of relationship. It's more of a professional type of relationship. It's not the common, you're not easily built to do it. You have to develop the skill, and especially for women. And maybe within our country in specific, going or building a business in a man's world depended on your ability to build relationship, overcome the barriers, and especially personal barriers. How can you build can you build your confidence in a way that you can go and knock the door, find someone that you don't really know before, but you need, either you want to sell to, or you want them to become your supplier, or they could be a customer as well, and build that relationship. But as you said, so that's on a smaller personal network scale. The more you go into building a business that you let's say hope for that business to become scalable, the more the importance of your network to be not just let's say regional, but also global. And in this day and age, building relationships with is critical, because you want people who have done it before to show you guidance. You could build relationships, as I said, for professional reasons, like they could become your customer, supplier, and so on. And having that mindset and skill does not come easily to others. Or I mean, especially the youth and the young generations. So how can you understand that this is something that it's like a muscle that you can train, and the more you do it, the more you're able to multiply your chances. The more your network is expanded.
Yeah, definitely. I think it takes a lot of practice just putting yourself out there, especially if it's something that you're not comfortable with or something that you're familiar with doing. I know a lot of my programmer friends, it's so easy for them to just get caught up in the work and always be heads down in front of their computer. And they, tend to put that as like a last priority, for them, is actually going out and meeting people. And right now it's, pretty difficult in this time of age since everything is virtual. But as humans, we naturally have to adapt. And I still think that there are opportunities for people to, continue building their network and helping others and just connecting with the general community. And I would love to learn more just about, your role at Endeavor and how your community is helping, support entrepreneurs and founders in their journey.
So my story with Endeavor started when I was building Yatuk, which is a company that developed coffee brewing technology. If you've ever been to the Middle East and tried Arabic coffee, it's the #1 coffee being consumed in Saudi. However,
so good.
back then, the only way you could brew a pot is manually on a stove pot, on a stove. And the idea, like around 2011, was to develop a coffee machine that brews Arabic coffee automatically without needing equipment. And so I turned the idea into a concept to an MVP. And then when the company, after 2 years of like ideation and writing even code to brew coffee, the product was ready for mass distribution, and it was an inflection point for the company and for the startup, where we started scaling and growing fast. And it was an excellent time for that's when I learned about Endeavor. Endeavor back then was just starting in Saudi. However, it started 20 years ago in Latin America, in parts of Asia, and now operates around 35 offices across the globe, focusing on emerging markets. So back then it was in Saudi just starting out, and when I joined Endeavor as an entrepreneur, it helped me a lot expand my network, and gave me access to mentors, to customers that I would it would have taken me longer time to access if the network wasn't there. And Endeavor is built on the idea of finding high impact entrepreneurs and helping them grow and scale their companies faster. So let's say if we had the ambition of saying we wanted to increase the GDP of our country like a 1%, and if we look at the small and medium sector, how many companies that are small or medium do we need to support to become big and be able to generate the quality jobs that we aspire to have, and generate revenues that will affect the GDP positively? What we found is that it's a very small subset of the whole SME sector, and these we call high impact entrepreneurs. Usually at the end of year, the number of jobs that this small subset of companies generate is let's say 80% of the jobs and the revenue created by the sector itself. And that's why these companies are super important, and that's why Endeavor focuses on. Endeavor now in Saudi has a portfolio of around 20 plus companies with a total revenues of over 2 billion, coming just from these 20 companies, and most of them are startups, employing over 300,000 people.
Wow, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing. So, it sounds really exciting, the work that Endeavor is doing. How do they go about finding, the founders and startups that they want to work with? For anyone that's, listening to this chat, how can they become more involved with Endeavor, or, what should they be focusing on if they want to become a part of this community?
So that's a good question. Endeavor focuses on companies in the scale-up stage, meaning companies most probably have been operational for, on average 2 to 3 years, and have revenues at least above $1 million. And for a company to reach that stage, most probably it was a startup at a certain point. However, definitely you can reach out to Endeavor through the website, through social media, and all these channels. But honestly, Medellin, and the most effective way to be part of the network comes through referral, meaning you meeting one of our entrepreneurs, one of the investors, one of our board members, one of our mentors, and that's where we get the most Endeavor fit companies who, once they go to the selection process, they get selected. And Endeavor has somewhat of a very rigorous selective process. So we might look at 100 companies a year, but we're able only to select 6 to 8 if we're lucky, on average. However, being part of Endeavor, you don't need just to be a founder. You could work with one of the Endeavor companies. And the beauty in, let's say, in Endeavor, that you're not just only, it's not just the Saudi Endeavor companies working in Saudi. You have a broader network of Endeavor companies from Egypt, from the MENA region, from Jordan, from the UAE, accessing the Saudi market and working there, creating lots of jobs. And also from the broader network, we have companies from Bulgaria operating in Saudi, and we're helping them access customers and having market access to our market. We're also able to help Endeavor entrepreneurs expand and reach customers beyond the Saudi borders. So let's say, just to give you an example, one of the recent Endeavor companies expanded within the COVID crisis to 3 different countries. One of them Italy, and neighboring MENA region. And they're able to do that as well and accelerate that through our network.
Wow, that's incredible. So it's like the partners and just the connections that your community has worldwide that you're then able to connect these different startups, founders, team members, with these different opportunities and these people to really accelerate opportunities. For someone that maybe isn't in that stage of entrepreneurship yet where they're ready to expand to other countries, but they want to start building that global network. Do you have any advice for them?
It's always back to the point when we started the conversation, is first you have to develop your ability to build relationships. It always boils down to personal relationships, and the more you are able to cultivate that and and do it as early as possible, because a relationship, a person you meet today, you might not, the opportunity that will come and through them, or you will need them, might not happen now, but could be in 2 or 3 years. In order for you to start building your network, you need to do it as early as possible and not wait to the time where you really need something. Meaning, like, let's say, I always encourage even the youth, students who are still in college, don't wait until you're in your graduation year to start building your network and looking for companies that you want to work for. Do that as early as possible. Find mentors and start doing that, because usually your ability to get, let's say, cultivate opportunity, you need to build trust. You need to build people who will know you, and because referrals always trumps any other way of exchanging opportunities. And I see that's why, do it as early as possible.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's super easy to just be super focused on your work, and then all of a sudden when the time comes, you're like, great, I need to connect with these people. But good people want to work with good people, and people love working with people that they know and that can trust. And so I think you come from a much more authentic place when you're not in this space of like, oh, I need these connections right now. But instead of taking the time to actually build the authentic, connections and the relationships that are going to end up helping you in the long run. I think building relationships is definitely a journey, not a quick sprint.
And absolutely, building on what you said, is giving, the concept of giving back. The more you are a connector, the more you're in tune to helping others find opportunities. Even if it's like a seed that you will throw, and you could reap it 3, 4, 5 years down the line. You never know. But the more that you are giving back, the more you're able to reap the benefits.
Yeah, I love that you talk about giving back. For us at Startup Grind, we're one of the largest global entrepreneurial communities in the world. We have chapters in over 600 cities, 150 different countries, and we've connected with over 2 million entrepreneurs. And one of the ways that we see our impact and our mission is helping others, giving back, making friends. At all of our events, we always encourage people to, ask how you can help. And, if you're needing help for something too, like share that, not just, give your business card and I'm trying to sell you something. And, this is what I can give, coming from a place of, we're all in this together. And I think that a lot of times in, different communities, you see so many silos put up of like, well, this is our community and whatnot. But when you are a bit more open and just help the people within your general ecosystem, and it not just being like one VC, one founder that are ruling it all, and come from more of a collective approach, you're able to make such a bigger impact. And then from your own personal growth and professional growth, your network becomes even bigger, because you are looked to in the community as someone that is a giver and a connector and a helper, and it only comes back to help you tenfold, as well as lifting up the community as a collective.
Definitely. And that's also one of the biggest components built into the Endeavor concept is the multiplier effect. And what do we mean by that is that, one of the things that we filter when we select companies, or let's say founders into the network, is are they the kind of people who will become the next mentor, the role model for the community? Will they be able to give back for the the coming generation of entrepreneurs? And we actually trace that and develop research, and we have these maps of showing how certain entrepreneurs within the network have impacted other entrepreneurs, multiplying their effect. Because Madeline, back to the, when I told you we're ambitious enough, we want to move the GDP 1%, but we will, let's say in Saudi, we will need at least 100 or 200 high impact companies to do that. But for us in Endeavor, we might not be able within the next 3 to 4 years to work with more than 40. But Saudi needs that number. And how can we achieve that? It's through the multiplier effect. If we're able to really choose the the founders that are to have that give back mentality, then it's gonna play through them. We will reach the 100 or the 200 companies that we will need to lift up the ecosystem all in general. That's why it's completely important. And back to the programmers of the hackathon. I want to tell you something. Sometimes there's this, let's say, person or a founder or programmer that you really look up to. You might not have the chance to meet on a regular basis, or you might not believe that he could become your mentor. However, if you put that as a target and you try to build and find ways to connect with him through your network, you will be amazed how someone who is really high profile might be super happy to take time just to talk to you and share his experience, and even look at becoming a mentor to your company and helping it grow. I remember one guy I used to follow on Twitter while I was still student, founder of AOL, Steve Case. And Steve, for me, it's like following like Michael Jackson, like someone you think you'll never meet in real life. And he was on my panel during the selection process in 2014 for joining Endeavor, and I was blown away. He took the time to meet and read about my company and spent time over an hour plus just discussing how I can grow my company. And it's through these opportunities that you get to meet these kind of people. And even if you don't become an Endeavor entrepreneur, you still have the ability to build that kind of relationship if you go to, let's say, conferences, networking events, and present yourself in a way. And sometimes simply just saying, I really admire your work and I would love to have a coffee with you sometime. So I highly encourage all these programmers to not just focus on becoming the best at what they do, but also take the time to build relationships, because through them, they will be able to market their work and get it to a greater audience.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I totally agree with you. I always tell myself the answer is already no. if you're too afraid to ask. And you just have to put yourself out there. And even sometimes something as crazy as like reaching out to someone that you admire or look up to in a professional sense through Twitter or Instagram or through LinkedIn. You never know where that conversation may lie. And maybe you can't start out straight at Steve Case, but maybe you start with someone that works for him or is close within his team, or someone that's on their technical team, and starting there and building that relationship. And then they introduce you into their community, and you never know where that's going to grow. Given that we are in this weird time and the pandemic, and so many different businesses being affected by it, I'm sure many people think the last thing I have time to do right now is go in networking. From your experience, can you share, just a brief story of how, by you making the time to network and build a network and focus on your community, that it played a really big role in your business?
I remember, let me tell you the story of Sila, which is the Professional Women Network. We started around 2011 or so. And back then, it was really tough for a female to get into the workforce or find jobs beyond the public traditional, let's say, jobs like being a teacher or working in a bank. So we started Sila and basically started. So the key here, my advice would be taking initiative. Don't wait for you to find opportunities. Create them if they're not there. And back then, because it was super hard, together with 9 really wonderful women, we decided, okay, we need to create a network and create a platform and opportunities for women, professional women, to meet each other and share success stories and be inspired. That's one, and 2, create opportunity. And the success stories after that was like, I can't even count them. I remember a few of the professional women who we invited to speak to the network joined the Shura Council, which is basically like the Senate in the US. And they were super, and I remember women coming out of these meetings really inspired and saying, if she did it, I can. And the key here, if you don't have the network, take initiative and build it. And you never know, you would be surprised how much people want to connect and want to give back. And especially people who've done it and achieved success, they love to be heard. And also sometimes they live success again through your journey, because you're mentor. But I want to ask you, I've been talking a lot, and I want to know your story more, and I want you to tell me first about what were you doing before Startup Grind, and now your role at Startup Grind.
Sure. So I've always been very entrepreneurial, similar to you. As a young girl, I had a bunch of lemonade stands and, was running those on the block. Always kind of just, what can I sell? What can I do? I want to be a businesswoman. And, my journey has taken me through one business venture that I ended up doing. So I had a meal prep delivery service, and then I ended up moving to Chicago and becoming more involved with, startups in the food and beverage space. I'm Italian, so I'm naturally a big foodie. And something that, has always played a role, no matter what job I worked or where I was, is the sense of community. Community has always played a big role in my life. And so I wanted to find a way to help other entrepreneurs. And that's how I got involved with Startup Grind. So I started as a co-director for the Chicago chapter, just putting on events. And so we have events in, you know, all these different cities around the world where our directors are inviting key CEOs, founders, you know, key figures that can really inspire and educate a room. And then we help connect, you know, those people and the entrepreneurs with the different resources and, you know, service providers and just the network that they need. So I started as a co-director and then ended up having the opportunity to work for Startup Grind full time as an HQ team member. And now I'm the community manager of the Americas. So I oversee all of our chapters and have the, you know, honor of working with so many amazing people in North, South, and Central America. So it's been just an incredible opportunity to see so many different ecosystems doing so many different things, and, you know, having just such incredible people that really want to help others. You know, Mo, who helped put all of this on, has made such a big impact within his community, and, you know, making those connections for others and helping people find mentors, and you know, all of those different things play a key role in a founder's journey and helping them create a successful business.
And what do you need to be part of that as an entrepreneur or a coder?
Yeah, so this is actually a perfect time to really get involved. So typically we used to host these events, you know, in person all around the world. And so you could just go to startupgrind.com, find if there's a chapter in your city, and, you know, can attend one of those events. But because everything is online and virtual, we've adapted pretty quickly, and we just had 150 virtual events just this April, and we're planning on having 500 different events, you know, over the next couple of months, which is really exciting. And so you can simply just go to startupgrind.com and search our events. We have, you know, chapters that are hosting within all different, you know, languages, native languages to where they're at. So I definitely recommend looking for the city that you live in first, as that would be the easiest way to connect locally, you know, with your community, with your ecosystem. Feel free to reach out to the chapter director, you know, directly, and they can help you get more involved with the community. So there's tons of opportunities right now to get involved with Startup Grind. And, you know, first would be just visiting our website and checking out all of our amazing events.
That's amazing. And is Startup Grind a nonprofit?
We are not a nonprofit.
Okay.
So I would love to, you know, we're kind of wrapping up, but, you know, if there was one key takeaway about, you know, going out and building a global network, or, you know, working on building a network virtually, do you have any advice for our listeners?
I always like to say this, to draw this example or analogy. So let's say you have two guys who want to be successful lawyers. They're getting into, they're studying law. One guy, both his father, his uncle, his grandfather are all lawyers. And the other guy, most of his people around him, his father, his family, are doctors. Who you think will be more successful, or will reach success faster, if I might say?
The doctors.
Why? If you are a lawyer and most of your network are doctors.
Oh, sorry. The other way around. The more diverse of a network that you have, the more easier it is to get connected and just, you know, meet other people that don't necessarily have the skill sets that you have.
That's a very good point. And I always say that if you're a lawyer and you want to succeed as a lawyer, know as many lawyers as you can. They will most probably share their experience with and let's say their mistakes so that you might not need to do them again. And so the question is, if you have no lawyers around you, what will you do? And go and build that. Identify the kind of relationships that you lack and actively build it over time, either by being taking leadership and and creating opportunities for people to meet. And if you're lucky enough to have like Startup Grind or other networks that enable you or Endeavor, that enable you to create these connections, then try to build that. But it's extremely important life skill that it is skill by nature. It's like a muscle. The more you let's say you train, the stronger it becomes.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think when, building a company, it's important to have that different skill set around you to help build it. But when it comes to you developing like your own skills and going through that entrepreneurial journey, it's so important to be surrounded by fellow entrepreneurs and those who have been, through that journey before, who can, serve as a mentor, give you really great insight, open up doors for opportunity, introducing you to other people.
Absolutely. If you ask me, and I remember one guy I met who, and he's a serial entrepreneur, he's like, I think networking is the one and most important skill an entrepreneur must have.
I love that. I love that. It's a people business, you might have a product, but there's always people behind it that matter.
Absolutely. How about you?
How about me? I would say the importance of building a global network, my key takeaway is frequency. I think a lot of times you meet people at an event, you have a really good conversation, and then that's kind of the last you hear from them. But it really is about being consistent in the relationship, following up for coffee, or having like a virtual, a quick call, or, thinking about the 5 people that you just met at the last virtual event, like, and bring them into a new event and be like, hey, I know we just met. These are some other people I met through a virtual networking event, and I'd love for us to all just hop on together, next week to connect even more, since we're all stuck inside. And I think creating those opportunities for yourself, if they're not in existence, is really important right now.
Love it. I love it.
Also too, like I said, for everyone in Saudi Arabia right now, you guys can get involved with the Startup Grind chapters. I know we have 6 chapters in Saudi and over 35 chapters across the region. So we're always more than happy to help get you connected to your local ecosystem and your local community, as well as our global network.
Excellent.
All right, awesome. Ladies, thank you very much for this wonderful chat we just heard. I'm not going to interfere with the entrepreneurship stats. I know you both would know this a lot more than I do. But when it comes to hackathons or developing these kind of competitions, the average worldwide, sometimes for the ladies' appearance or participation, is approximately 20 to 25% in competitions like this hackathons or even cyber security events. We're very proud to announce on this panel, especially, or this discussion, that here with the Federation, we always hit 50% or even more in some events of the participants are from the females of Saudi Arabia, the younger generation that's coming very fast into this tech world, and we're very proud to give them the opportunity whenever we can. Today, with this homathon that we're undergoing in the strategic partnership with the Startup Grind and the Saudi Data and Artificial Intelligence Authority here, STC, Oracle, and Microsoft as well, we have a huge number of ladies participating in this competition as well. we want to close this session with one final note from each one of you to all these ladies participating in this competition or this homathon. What would it be? Arlene?
I would just say you guys are awesome and keep paving the way. You know, we need more women standing up, putting themselves out there, putting themselves in, you know, maybe it's uncomfortable for you to be in a competitive room filled with a bunch of competitive men. But we need people like you to keep on going and serve as an example for other women, and to invite your other female friends to join. And we're also all in this together, you know, we're all here to help each other and lift each other up. And that's what it's all about.
Awesome. What about you, Ms. Latifa?
Definitely. I mean, thank you for giving us this opportunity. I think now more than ever, it's time for the techies to make a dent in the world. And I mean, with this opportunity, I wish them all the luck. I'm really looking forward to the winners, inshallah.
So tune in through the next few days where we'll be having our live feed on our channels, Saudi Federation for Cybersecurity Programming and Drones, on our social media accounts. And in a few days, we will know who are the winners of this homathon. Ladies, thank you very much for this wonderful talk. It was a pleasure hosting you. And to the rest of our viewers, we will continue with this feed shortly. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. يعطيكم العافية.
عافيك.
It was